They said the skies were innocent, but what if they never were? What if the truth behind the clouds has been hidden for over 2,000 years, buried beneath the dust of the Colosseum itself? Today we're diving into a story that bends the boundaries of time, science, and conspiracy. The shocking connection between modern chemtrails and the mysterious weather manipulations of ancient Rome. For years, people have looked up and wondered about those long white streaks cutting across the blue. Trails left by planes that seem to linger, spreading into hazy veils that change the way sunlight hits the earth. Some say it's nothing but condensation. Others claim it's chemical control. An invisible hand shaping our skies, our crops, even our minds. But what if this obsession with controlling the weather isn't new at all? What if the Romans, yes, those masters of aqueducts, warfare, and empire, were the first to weaponize the heavens? The year is 78 before Christ. Rome is the beating heart of the ancient world, its legions stretching across continents, its engineers shaping nature itself. They've mastered water with aqueducts that stretch for kilometers, transporting life across deserts. They've bent stone into arches that seem to defy gravity. But in the scrolls of certain forgotten Roman texts, ones rarely discussed by mainstream historians, there are whispers of another kind of mastery. Not over land, not over water, but over the sky. Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder once wrote that, "There is nothing that nature does which man cannot learn to imitate." To most, this was a statement of curiosity, but to others, it was a declaration of intent. The Romans believed the gods ruled the weather, Jupiter throwing lightning, Neptune stirring storms. But what if Rome's engineers wanted to dethrone those gods? What if they discovered a way to mimic divine power using something far more earthly? Chemistry, heat, and smoke. According to certain translations of ancient military accounts, the Roman legions carried not just catapults and swords, but a strange type of sky apparatus. These were described as metallic bowls filled with salts, oils, and powders, heated until the air shimmered above them. Witnesses claimed the sky would change color during battles, with sudden mists or rains appearing out of nowhere. Most historians dismiss this as metaphor or exaggeration, but those who study the hidden side of history, the stories that textbooks avoid, see something else. A prototype, a beginning. Fast forward to the modern world, where jets streak across the sky, leaving behind trails that spread into milky sheets. Many believe these are signs of geoengineering, attempts to manipulate weather patterns to cool the planet or control agriculture. Yet few realize that the same chemical principles are ancient. The Romans experimented with cloud seeding long before that phrase existed. In temple rituals, priests of Jupiter would burn mixtures of sulfur, saltpeter, and plant oils to summon rain. Farmers copied these rituals, hoping to end droughts. Some reported sudden rainfall after the ceremonies. Coincidence? Or the earliest form of atmospheric experimentation? One ancient Roman tablet found near Pompeii contains a curious inscription. Smoke rises to appease the sky. When it thickens, the fields drink. It might sound poetic, but modern scientists recognize something eerily familiar. When you heat certain minerals, especially those containing silver or copper, they can seed moisture in clouds, triggering rain. Ancient Rome might have stumbled upon this long before we did, seeing it not as science but as sacred magic. Now imagine this. You are a Roman general, preparing for war. You know the enemy's army depends on clear skies to march and fight. But what if you could summon fog to hide your legions? What if you could bring rain to flood their supply routes? In an empire obsessed with control, this kind of power would be irresistible. Some records describe generals performing rites to cloud the heavens before major battles. The Battle of Philippi, for instance, was said to begin under a sudden darkness that confused both sides. The historian Cassius Dio wrote that, "The sky turned to mist, and the air itself seemed to tremble." Was it just bad weather? Or was Rome playing the sky like an instrument? This obsession didn't end with the fall of the Republic. Under the emperors, weather rituals became political tools. When drought struck, the emperor himself would appear at the temple of Jupiter, burning vast quantities of sulfur and incense. The smoke would spiral upward, not just as an offering, but as a public display of power. To the people, it was divine. To modern eyes, it looks like atmospheric manipulation. The line between ritual and science was thin, and Rome was standing right on it. Archaeologists have recently unearthed what might be the most compelling clue. Beneath the Colosseum, the very arena where gladiators fought and emperors were worshipped, lies a network of tunnels and chambers. Most are for animals and stage machinery, but one chamber, sealed since ancient times, contains a residue of strange minerals: sulfur, lead oxide, and traces of an unidentified compound. Modern analysis shows that when heated together, these materials produce dense smoke capable of lingering in the air, reflecting sunlight and altering temperature locally. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same principle behind modern geoengineering. Could it be that Rome wasn't just entertaining the masses with blood and spectacle, but conducting experiments right above their heads? The Colosseum, after all, was more than a stadium. It was a symbol of control over people, beasts, and perhaps even nature itself. By the time the empire reached its height, weather omens had become political currency. Senators and priests interpreted every storm, every rainbow, as a sign of favor or doom. But what if some of those omens weren't natural at all? What if the empire's elite used controlled smoke and vapor to create illusions in the sky, to inspire awe, obedience, or fear? Imagine a city crowd looking up to see clouds forming just as the emperor declares victory. To them, it's divine approval. To us, it looks like stagecraft, atmospheric propaganda. And here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because when we trace the arc of Roman history, from unstoppable rise to catastrophic fall, a chilling pattern emerges. As Rome expanded its reach, its obsession with control deepened. They engineered cities, laws, and even the weather. But the more they tried to master nature, the more it seemed to rebel. Crops failed, rivers dried. The skies darkened. Was it just coincidence, or did Rome's own experiments backfire? Volcanic records show that around the 3rd century, the Roman climate shifted dramatically. Harvests collapsed, famine spread, and strange mists were reported over the Mediterranean. Some scientists link this to volcanic eruptions, but others point to continuous air pollution from Roman industries, metal smelting, large-scale burning, and ritual smoke. Rome might have unknowingly changed its own climate, poisoning the very skies it tried to command. The empire that sought to dominate the heavens may have engineered its downfall from above. And doesn't that sound familiar? Fast forward to our era. We have satellites, drones, and atmospheric research programs, many of them classified. Governments admit to testing cloud seeding, spraying aerosols to reflect sunlight, and experimenting with weather control for agriculture and defense. Officially, these are scientific endeavors to mitigate climate change, but critics argue that it's the same ancient temptation. Control the sky, control everything. Now here's the question that keeps resurfacing. If Rome did it and fell, what makes us think we'll succeed? There are modern pilots who claim to have seen strange patterns in flight logs, routes that seem designed not for transport but for sky manipulation. Farmers have reported sudden local weather shifts following unusual flight activity. Satellite images reveal geometric cloud formations that defy natural patterns. And in the age of digital transparency, leaked documents from the mid-20th century mention Project Cirrus, Storm Fury, and Popeye, all real programs dedicated to weather modification. History repeats itself, not because we forget, but because we disguise it. Think about it. Ancient Rome used incense, oils, and minerals. We use aluminum oxides, barium salts, and sulfur dioxide. Different tools, same goal. They did it to please the gods and control their enemies. We do it to save the planet or maintain geopolitical advantage. Both stories hide the same obsession, mastery over the uncontrollable. Even the symbolism lines up. The Roman eagle, wings spread wide across the sky, was the emblem of imperial dominance. Today, jet planes carve the same patterns into the atmosphere. The empire of the air has replaced the empire of stone. But just like Rome, we might be sowing the seeds of our own collapse above our heads. There's a theory that ancient engineers, possibly influenced by knowledge from older civilizations like Egypt or Babylon, had rudimentary understanding of aerosolized particles. Some ancient texts describe the use of sky powders to disperse heat. Roman bathhouses used steam channels to manipulate humidity, and certain philosophers even discussed the weight of air. They were closer to meteorology than we give them credit for. When you combine that knowledge with military ambition, you have the perfect recipe for primitive weather control. And the legacy didn't end there. Medieval alchemists preserved fragments of Roman science, reinterpreting them through mysticism. Some of their recipes for sky elixir match the chemical compositions of substances used in modern atmospheric experiments. In other words, the chain of knowledge never broke. It just went underground, resurfacing in different eras with new names. The most shocking revelation comes from the writings of a forgotten Roman engineer known as Marcus Vitruvius Pollio. Yes, the same man who inspired the term Vitruvian. In his lesser-known texts, he speaks of the art of balance between the air and the fire. He describes structures designed to release controlled vapors during ceremonies and public works. He warns that too much sky smoke could lead to imbalance, causing sickness and crop failure. Could he have foreseen what we now call atmospheric pollution? Could he have known that manipulating the air has consequences? The parallels between then and now are haunting. Rome reached for total dominance and ended up collapsing under the weight of its own systems. We too build empires of technology, trying to outsmart nature. But every time humanity tries to rewrite the sky, nature writes back in thunder. Look at our modern world. Droughts appear where they never did before. Rain falls in sheets where deserts once stood. Temperature records break year after year. Some blame carbon, others whisper about geoengineering gone wrong. And somewhere beneath those whispers lies the echo of Roman ambition, an empire that wanted to control the sky and paid the price. The fall of Rome wasn't just about politics or barbarians, it might have been environmental. When the air thickened with smoke, when crops withered, when disease spread, the gods seemed angry. But maybe it wasn't divine wrath. Maybe it was feedback, the atmosphere pushing back against centuries of tampering. So when people today ask if chemtrails are real, maybe they're asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question is, have humans ever tried to change the sky? From sacred smoke in temples to contrails across continents, the story is the same. The sky becomes the canvas for our desire to control, and the warning sign of our limits. And here's a final thought. The Colosseum still stands, its arches framing the same sky the Romans once sought to command. Tourists gaze upward, snapping photos of the clouds drifting overhead, never knowing that they might be looking at the same kind of haze that once heralded the empire's end. Maybe the chemtrails over the Colosseum aren't a coincidence. Maybe they're a reminder that power always looks upward before it falls. Every empire, from Rome to ours, begins with ambition, peaks with control, and ends with collapse. The Romans built roads, aqueducts, and armies. We build satellites, networks, and skies laced with metal dust. Both chase the same illusion, that the sky can be mastered. But the sky remembers. It always remembers. When the clouds gather over Rome, casting their long shadows across the broken stone of the Colosseum, ends as if history itself exhales, a silent warning drifting through time. The same smoke that once rose from Roman altars now trails from our engines. The same ambition that brought them glory might bring us ruin. The question isn't whether the Romans controlled the weather. The question is whether we've learned anything since. Because if the fall of empires was engineered from above once, what's stopping it from happening again? And as the sun sets behind the Colosseum, the sky turns gold, then gray, then a strange metallic white. The tourists keep walking, never realizing that they're standing beneath the same story, written not in stone, but in clouds.